Hello again. I recently got a couple comments or questions from folks on making leaves, and I suppose it's been a while since I made a making leaf video, and hopefully the autofocus is working on this video. On one of the other ones I saw it wasn't working very well or at all. But sure, I might as well. I also got a question on how to add strands in. And for those of you wondering, look for the videos where there's like a branch split in the thumbnail. In a lot of those videos I'm adding strands, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. So I can't make one video on all the ways, I suppose. But here we have the most used tools for making leaves. This is the leaf twister. I made this one myself out of a flat bit. Over the years I've kind of gotten more picky about making leaves, and now I'm down to this. This is my favorite one. I like it to be able to come out of this so I can get in some real tight spots to make leaves. It's the same one I used in the other videos. Eventually I decided to put it back in the chuck and spin it and hit it with some sandpaper and eat away at this edge here so it could get into even tighter spots. But yeah, this is my favorite one. If any of you are wanting to have something like this, probably your best solution, because it needs to fit the wire just so. You don't want it too tight or too loose. I mean, if I really press on it, well, it's getting a little worn out. It used to stick, and plus the wire kind of varies, you know, a little bit. It says it's 1.4 millimeter diameter, but that changes a little bit. But it's important it fits kind of tight. You don't want it to be able to wiggle too much. So if you want one like this, your best bet is probably to take a piece of the wire you're using to a jewelry maker in your hometown, because they're used to working with really small bits of metal. And if you're not using stiff wire, if you're using copper wire, you don't need a hard steel tool like I do. I'm working with some pretty stiff aluminum wire here, so the actual bit has to be able to withstand the torque that I put on it making the leaves, or the tips will just bend and break off. But if you're using copper wire or soft aluminum or any wire that bends easily, you could just take a big nail or even a piece of brass or something to your local jewelry shop and then show them my leaf twisting tool making video. You know, just bring it there and show them on your phone and say, hey, I want one of these to fit the wire I have, and they'll probably be able to make you one for $25–30. I mean, it's kind of a fussy thing. It takes a while to do. You wouldn't think it'd take too long, but if you're working this hard tool steel like I am, you have to use diamond bits, and it takes a while, because if you let things get too hot, your diamond bits get too hot, and well, you just got to take your time. It's a fussy thing. But at any rate, let's add in a strand here quick, because I don't know how long the batteries are going to last on this. I charged it up all the way. Okay, so if we're adding in a strand, you can see here we're actually adding in 2 strands most of the time, not all the time. And then basically what you want to do is you want to take this one and get in here, give it a twist, and then we should probably, looks like this one would be a good one. Try and keep the light on it. Whoops, there I am dropping tools. Okay, so you can kind of see the basic part there. And then we'll get in there with our flat pliers and tighten this up a little bit so we don't have any gaps. Don't want to go too tight or you snap a wire. that flat pliers again. Okay, so we just changed 2 strands into 4 strands. Get those out a little bit further. And then we will take the rest of these strands and twist those up. And we'll get our, I already lost my leaf making tool. No, end of video! No, I'll find it. Just I can't see very good. Okay. Whoops. Where'd that leaf making tool go? There it is. I actually hung it on the dang magnet. Okay, for GFR 1000 or whoever, I'm sorry if I got your username wrong. She specifically wanted to know how I end the wire on a leaf cluster, and I guess we'll show you right here. Give it some time to get in focus. You can see I got that just sticking out a tiny bit. And that is how I ended. I just tucked the end right tight into the next wire. And then for the second twist, you want to leave a little bit sticking out. Now we have 2 leaves. And usually I will get my flat pliers out and just kind of smash those a little bit so that they're kind of even like that. And bend them up a little bit so that I got a good start for the next leaf. Now when you're making leaves, now look, and we have, oh, I don't know, maybe 7-8 inches there altogether. So we'll see how big a leaf cluster we get out of that. Now when you're making leaves, it's over and under. So now this one's, the last one was under, so this one's going to be over. And then you basically want to, you need an anvil to work against. Now see how my finger is on top of the wire on this one? So there's a loop. And now we're going to go under and see how my finger puts pressure, whoops, on the bottom side of the wire now. Your finger is your kind of your anvil. And I didn't do so good on that one. So if need be, I can get my flat pliers out here. Flatten her out. Looks good for the next one. The next one is over. So my finger on the top of the wire. Next one's an under. Finger on the bottom of the wire. Next one's over. Finger on the top of the wire. Now let's look here. No, there's a little gap there. So why don't we... Whoop! A little too hard. Things are getting out of hand. You can always get your flat pliers in there. Now it's looking good again. This one's going to be an under. So finger on the bottom of the wire. Over. Under. Over. Under. Over. Under. Over. Under. Over. under, over. Now at this point we're getting close to where we need to decide, can I get one more loop out of this chunk of wire or not? And on this one I think I can. But before I do that, I'm going to close this up a little bit so that it looks all nice. Just kind of mash it together. And we're on under, and I can't really get my finger where I want it to be this time, so I'm just going to wing it. Okay, and I don't think I can get a full loop out of this one. It's awful close. I don't think I can. So what I'm going to do is go like that, and then just give a little bend there. And my leaf cluster is in place. Now I'll show you how to do a leaf cluster on the bottom one. Hopefully the batteries are still recording. I can't see. And I'm going to take it and give a little bend. Now normally I'd have the bigger leaf cluster on top and the smaller leaf cluster on the bottom. And that's what I would call a small leaf cluster. That's not that long. Some of my leaf clusters I'll use up to 18 inches. And on this one we definitely got more than 18 inches. And unfortunately I don't have my cutter with me. But what the heck, we'll see if we can fit a leaf cluster in. That's going to be a real big one. So we start again and we just leave a little bit sticking out. And I'm not even going to flatten this one because I don't think I need to this time. And if you got really strong fingers, you can actually just get in there with your fingers and give it a good pinch. But over, finger on the top, under, finger on the bottom. That helps you get a really nice loop. Finger on the top, finger on the bottom, finger on the top, finger on the bottom, finger on the top, finger on the bottom, finger on the top, finger on the bottom. Now look at this hand. Watch how my fingers do this. You don't want to twist with your wrist. You want to twist with your fingers as much as possible, or you'll get carpal tunnel. See, it's two motions with the fingers. One. Well, that's two there actually. I can't count. Watch again. Watch the hand holding the tool. It's kind of a two motion, but you notice the wrist is not, we'll get back, the wrist is not really moving a whole lot. So I'll just get back to the, and this is about as fast as I can go. I can't go much faster than this because you gotta get the placement of the tool in the right place so your loops aren't too spaced out. Now you can see that's getting to be a pretty big leaf cluster. It's definitely going to be hard to tuck it underneath that teeny little one. Over the years, My leaf making has just gotten tighter. Okay, now we're getting to the point where things are getting scary. I'm getting up close, so I better do my tighten up here on these guys. Just kind of mash them around. Give it a good pinch. Flatten out a little bit. Ooh, that's looking pretty. Now it's hard to get my fingers in here once again, but you can still make leaves without doing that. Can I sneak that through there? Well, I think I'm going to have to one way or another. So let's see what happens. And then we'll give a little, which way should I go? That way? That way? And then spin her up a little bit. And there we go, we got 2. Now if I was working on this branch, it's always good to make sure you got your leaf clusters exactly where you want them. If you need to, sometimes I'll get in here with this little bent nose. I don't like that little chunk right there. Straighten that out a little bit. Ooh, there we go. That looks pretty. Now it's probably time to think, where are we going with this branch? Like that. And then maybe like that. And this one needs to be a little bit longer. And of course, we don't like real straight branches, so get in there and give it a couple little twists. Yeah, it looks a little more tree-like. And now we look and see which one's longer, because we want the longer one on top this time, I think. And so we'll take that one down. Put the longer one on top. And then since we know we're going to have to, when we spin this one up, just need to get this one out of the way, so hopefully it can come around underneath it when we're making the last couple loops. And how long is that? That's a little longer than I normally use, but sometimes I'll use them this long, so we'll go ahead and do that one. Ooh, you can see this is junk wire. It was sitting on the floor too long or something. Got some dirt on it, but... And I would normally cut that end. See that we got a chisel end on there? I don't even know where my cutter is right now, and I'm not going to go find it, but I would cut that so it would have a square end, because this is... the light will reflect off of these. Funny. And then you'll see it in the middle of the cluster. Well, that time it worked out, so it didn't. It was that cut was perpendicular, so it's okay. And I'm not going to hit these with the flat pliers like I did before. The closer you can keep your fingers, the ones holding the wire up to the loop, the better. And here's another thing I want to mention. When you're making leaves, you don't want to stress this point out too much. You don't want to be wiggling the wire back and forth all the time. And you definitely do not want to be spinning the wire. See how I'm doing that? You don't want to be doing that while you're making leaves. You want this wire that's going towards the branch, you don't want that moving around a lot, because it puts stress on the end of it, and then you'll twist your leaf all the way up and you'll get to the end and you'll snap the whole cluster off, and that's no fun. So you don't really want to let this spin in your hand like this, and one way to avoid that is just to put a little bit of a curve into it. Don't have it perfectly straight, because when it's perfectly straight, it's real easy to make it spin, but when you got a little curve in there, you'll feel it and you'll notice it spinning, and you'll train yourself not to let it spin. I mean, it's not to say, I mean, I can make leaves. Like if I put it out here, I don't have to have my fingers up close. But you have to put a lot more tension, pull with this hand, than you do otherwise. And you'll see the quality of my loops aren't quite as good as they are when I have my fingers close. You can see those loops, they're just a little wonky compared to these other loops. They start getting a little goofy. Okay, we're getting close there. Get the wire straightened out a little bit. And this is a monster leaf cluster. But, you know, every once in a while I do them this big. But this is kind of getting close. Now here's that important part why I had this one bent like I did. See how it came out? It came out so it's a under twist. And no, I did not know that beforehand. I just prepare for it. And you don't always have to use the flat pliers to smash leaves flat like this one here. I'm going to get in here with my little bent nose, come from behind in that last loop because it was so close, it was a little wonky. And I should have done my compression of the cluster before I did that last loop because now it's a little harder. Because we got a lot of loops on this one. It's kind of taller than I would have liked, but this is for demonstration purposes, and we can kind of hide that by smashing that cluster. Whoops. We'll bend that kind of straight down almost.